All right. Hello, everyone. We are here on Zoom with Bettina, and I have some questions for her today as one of the clients who has been in my one-to-one close proximity, highly exclusive containers. And I'm very excited for her to share her experience working with me and her transformation. So, Bettina, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your love life was like before we started working together.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to your call. And I'm very proud and honored to share this with other women about the journey that we went through, and especially the journey I went on in the last 6 months, actually. So my name is Bettina Laux. I'm a business coach. I am 48 years old, and I'm from Germany. And my love life, before we started, the last relationship I had was I was in an open relationship for 3.5 years. And before that, I was in like a long-term relationship with a partner for like 8 years. So there's already been a lot of realizations about what I didn't want anymore after getting out of that open relationship. But the point when we actually met and when I decided to work with you, Leah, was I had started dating again. I went on Tinder. I was in Crete. I was traveling all over the place. And I realized some things are just not working. And the things that didn't work were basically I dated people that were just out for a one night stand. I was listening to monologues of what guys told me, I had evenings where people did not even ask me one question. And I was like, and he's like, I had such a good time. And I'm like, really? And I had a really good time listening to you. So it was very much a lot about I was very proactive in organizing and let's get together, especially after the first time. It was like the first time was still kind of like they organized that, but then it was more like me being like, hey, let's meet up again. So that was really, that time was a lot about that I was very active. I didn't feel like honored as a woman. It was more like, okay, we went on dates and they wanted to have sex with me. And I was like, oh, but actually I realized at one point, I was like, okay, I actually do want to have a serious relationship, but I don't even know how to communicate that to someone because apparently if I'm just natural, doesn't work. So that was about the point when we basically started working. So like, okay, I need to change my strategy because just being myself at that point didn't didn't get the result I wanted.
And I feel like when now you are so much more yourself, even though it feels like a massive transformation from where you were when you began, a lot of where you were at in the beginning and why you were doing things certain way was based on your programming, which isn't you. That's not you authentically. It feels like it's been you for years, but when we were able to like tap in and release a lot of that programming, that's when you were able to really step into like, who is Bettina as a woman instead of a performer? Who is Bettina in her natural essence, in her romance, in her indulging in the wonderful things in her life? That side of you got to really come out during our time together. So, what did you believe was holding you back when it came to love? What kind of like patterns and experiences made you feel like you were trapped in this circle?
Mm, I think my biggest trap was my high performance that I came from. I have a strong corporate background. I'm like a really high performing person, and like I love generating stuff, being a creator. So it was naturally for me to lead, and it was very unnaturally for me all of a sudden to stop leading. Being a bit of a control person of like I like to know the outcome. It was also like, okay, that's difficult. So what changed for me was like feeling, okay, it's not wrong to be a leader, but you have to know when you are a leader. And I realized in dating, it's definitely I lead when I lean back. And that is one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had. It was like, okay, I'm safe if I don't lead because then I actually give the other person the chance to show me who they are. Because I don't know how many days I went on and I kept alive Like I was riding the dead horse like for many times because I didn't realize even that it was dead because I kept performing and I kept like, let's meet together. Come on, and that was a big breakthrough because then it was so much faster that I all of a sudden realized, okay, he's not interested. And I have to say, it took a while to become not to take that personal anymore because
Mhm.
I thought like, oh, it's against me. But especially the last 3 months, I realized, okay, it's just the other person telling me something about themselves. Oh, thank you for telling me. And there became this kindness towards the other person that I'm not mad at him for like for him being him. But it
Mhm.
also, I did not get mad at myself, like, oh, I wasn't good enough. Like that really, I stepped away from that. So there was a lot of like, thank you for showing me who you are, and thank you, you're not for me. Like this was a big shift also in like being respectful to both parties.
I love
Um, yeah, that
I love
that
What did
was
it feel like when you were taking things, very personally and very attached to the outcome? What did that feel like for you?
to me, I remember the messages that I sent to you. I mean, I was in such a survival mode. Like I was so stressed, like I could feel it in my body, like my whole body was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like, and like to every woman that's not been called back by a guy probably knows this. Like, we're like, I'm
Mhm.
dying. And it was so hard. And I realized it in my head, like, okay, Bettina, you're not in a dangerous situation, but it was so much I felt it in my body. And there's been just so much like, and I realized, okay, the work that we are going to be doing, like, I can't only think it because you made me realize um, on a mindset level, I realized it, but then I also felt like, okay, I need to find like a solution how I can get it also out of my body. And that is also where you helped me a lot on releasing things and yeah, finding a way. I'm not going to talk about it because I can't explain it and it's your.
Yeah. When we're talking about releasing the energy and actually reprogramming the body and the mind, it is one of those things that's so challenging to put into words until you actually experience it. Um,
Mm.
so
I want to add something there because I'm such a logic person, and I had Leah like give me the science about it. I was like, okay, if I do that, I want the science, and then I didn't even care about the science anymore. And I tried it, and I walked for it, and I was like, oh, it helps. Oh my God, and it was it's a tool you definitely have to try a few times until it works, but it's now quick. Like it's in my first aid kit now.
yeah, yeah. Now you can literally run it on autopilot and it does so much for you. But yeah, knowing the logic behind it and the science is pretty on brand with being a very performance-based, logic-based, strategy-based woman. You wanted to know why does this work and being able to provide those answers for you. And even the like, why is a man doing this? Why is this happening? Why am I
Mm.
struggling with this? Getting those answers for the logic based woman, the logic minded woman, I think it provides an openness to then receive the powerful transformation behind it because you
Mm.
understand it. And so you can get on board with it in your mind. And then that moves the emotion and the body's response to getting on board with that strategy as well. So, what did you find was some of your biggest wins when it comes to that transformation?
Um, the biggest wins are actually also tied to understanding, first of all, how brain works, but also would love to add that because that's like one of the biggest changes that took things away from taking them personal onto like this is how men and women run on a hormone level. And this is what you have to do as a woman so that the guy gets activated. And like that was such a big breakthrough for me. I was like, oh, so I have to do it because like otherwise it's just the way we function and it's natural. It's not a stupid strategy, it's not woo-woo,
Yeah.
it's nature. And that was one of the biggest breakthroughs for me. I was like, okay, and I don't know how many people I already told. I was like, you know what? I know the deal now. And
Yeah.
that was amazing. And realizing that what changed for me was I felt safe going into receiving, which means when I met people and when dates were to be organized, I leaned back. And the guys actually were faster in asking me out for dates than I could even figure it out myself. So that was point one. The dates I went on, I had men flying for 3 hours across Europe to see me, to go on a Christmas market with me, to spend the night with me, and to build this really beautiful connection. And like, I was so, he really courted me. Like, it was very, I felt super safe. And by having a healthy masculine man by my side, I was actually, oh, now I can relax. I don't have to be event manager. I just
Mm-hmm.
asked question like, hey, do you want to do this? And didn't have the whole plan figured out as I would usually do. Like, next.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it was all natural, and I relaxed, and I naturally actually got into my feminine side, which I didn't think was possible, being very controlling in my head. But just by him leading, this whole whatever happens between man and woman happened, between healthy man and woman happened, and I was able to lean back and to enjoy. And he got even like more into his masculine when I just leaned back because there was no competition.
Yes.
So, and that was amazing. And the other day, I also had someone driving to me for 3 hours to cook a meal for me
Mm-hmm.
and leave the next day. No sex, nothing, just. And we talked about it before. It's like, look, there's not going to be food and sex. There's going to be food. And he's like, it's fine. Great that we talked about it. And I'm like, wow, that actually exists. And it's nice. And it's just all of a sudden there's this lightness to it. And like, okay. And I'm okay with anything that happens because it ties back to the point where Leah explained to me the person is just giving you information. It's not about you, he's just giving you information where he's at. And that, again, knowing that it's not about me, it's just about the other person being the other person. It gives me a lot more freedom how to deal with also difficult situations sometimes. So, um, but I got a lot more light. I got lightness into my dating. I got like, one part I would love to mention here, and this, a lot of women say, "Oh, I want this relationship," but one of the biggest blocks for me was I didn't even dare to say to a guy that I want a relationship because I thought, oh my God, that's such a turn off. A woman wants a relationship. They're out of the way. I didn't even dare to say that. And maybe you're also in that situation where you're like, either I don't dare to admit it to myself because I know that the guys may not like it, or you don't admit it to a guy. And that took me seriously 48 years to go up to a man and say, like, look, I really want a serious committed relationship and I can't wait to meet the person. Maybe it's you, but maybe it's someone else. And to say that with confidence and with regardless what happens, that's amazing. And that's
Yeah.
peace and ease and yeah, a lot of joy in dating again. And also knowing that I will find the right person. So
Yeah. Well, one of the things with you, Bettina, is that you're not just like a talk the talk kind of person that doesn't really exist for you. You really have to like walk the walk. And so once you understood it and you embraced it, you completely embodied the most feminine, adored woman by men. And she's not kidding when she says like men hopping on flights to see her, driving hours and hours, where I have women popping into my DMs being like, is it okay that he's driving that far to see me? Like, or will I have to put out then? And not being able to just receive without worrying that then she has to perform in some way. And you being able to indulge in that like massive transformation of just being the woman, allowing the man to treat you like the amazing woman you are, and assuming that every man is going to treat you in that way, and having that energy, it was just so incredible to see that aspect of your transformation, and your dates just change so much, and the level of connection you have with men has changed so much. And so I guess the next best question for me is what were the aha moments? You've touched on them already, but I want to see if there's any other ones. The big aha moments or the breakthroughs um, on your perspective of love, men, or even yourself.
I was thinking about that actually the last couple of days as well. I was like, did I have this one moment? But I had a lot of this one moments, because what I realized is it's like we all know the onion. It's like really this unfolding, and then there's a deeper level. But I have to say the aha moments get more intense and intense and more intense, but also lighter. Like all of a sudden, in the beginning, while we maybe had like 10 messages going back and forth, all of a sudden it's like two. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I get it. Next. And
Yeah.
and so the realization, so that's why I meant like it would be a shame to say there's one aha moment, but it's really these little things of getting to know yourself. It's about like, I got to know myself so much better, and also to deeply honor myself. And with that honor also came like, look, I want to be treated well. Like I actually like my bar, I don't want to say I had a low bar, but I didn't feel all this like, oh, you know what, you have to lean back and he needs to do, it's his job to do a lot more than he usually would be doing. So I really got to that point where I was like, oh, you know what, I'm deserving of that. I honor myself a lot, not a lot more. I finally honor myself the way I always wanted to honor myself. And I honor my energy, which also means, and that was one of the big aha moments, that it's a treat to be in my energy, and it's a gift to be in my energy, and a privilege. And actually, this is also something that changed not only in my love life, but also in my business, to say like, you know what, it's a privilege to be in my energy. And I choose my clients, and I choose the men that are by my side. And that was a big shift. And that's something I also would like to mention at this point. The transformation I made in relationships is also hugely a transformation in parallel going on in my business. Because the way how you are with people, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to behave the same way on conscious or subconscious level. And that was a big shift for me also, because I had two things changing. Like I raised my bar in relationships, and I raised my bar in standards in my own business. And that was amazing to see the unfolding. And yeah, so it's really, I think like for us women, like especially when we're not like 20 anymore and we're not in our first dating phase, but really about this, like honor yourself. Because like if you don't honor yourself, the guy's not going to honor you. And the more you honor yourself, they're going to be a lot more like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I better grow. I better grow up, or I better get the hell out of here. Just like,
Yes, yes, yes. You weed them out, and the ones
yeah,
that stay are meant to be. And it's so obvious. And that's a real gift of the process of honoring yourself and having that energy of, I am the privilege, I'm the prize. And that weeds men out quicker than anything else. And I love that.
yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
also just something about the weeding out, because that's something I had it was a drama for me in the beginning, like, oh, it was against me. But it's really like all they give you is information. Full stop, no drama, just information. And once
mhm.
you get to that, it gets so light, and you don't take it personal anymore.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you thank you for showing me who you are. Thank you. You're
yes,
welcome.
exactly. It's all a gift. It's all a gift.
Yeah.
No scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. So, who would you recommend one-to-one mentorship for? And what would you say to a woman who is thinking about it, but she's unsure about the investing in herself?
Who's it? It boils down to, are you serious with yourself? Are you serious with yourself? Are you serious about that you really want to have a relationship? That's the biggest question. Like I thought I was, and then I realized I came into the work with you, and then I realized maybe I don't want to, and then I realized no, hell yeah, I want to. So it's really about this taking yourself serious with your love life, to say like, look, I'm going to invest into this financially, physically, because I'm not going to lie, like it's hard work,
Mhm.
because like you go through all the shit that you've like other people put on you, to find your own soul again. So it
Yeah.
is also to be willing to invest and to be willing to listen to messages 5 times until you really get them. So you got to be committed to yourself that you're like, you know what? I want that incredible love life. I want the pleasure, I want the fun, I want the ecstasy, I want the commitment, and I want a really, really cool man by my side. You got to be serious about that, that you're ready to do that, because like I don't think I could go back to that dating that I used to have. I don't want to anymore, but you can't. So you have to be like, okay, now I make a decision. I decide, I go, and I rise. Like it's really like if you're ready for that. If you're half-assing, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
you're
powerful.
like, it's don't waste your own time and don't waste Leah's time. It's like, no, no, I'm serious, because like that it's a sacred space that we had, and it's just like I deeply honor the time, the energy, Leah, you put into our time. And it really, like whoever is thinking about working, like also do it. Is to me it's also a sister act, like
Mhm.
between women, to say like, look, I deeply honor your time, I honor my time, I'm going to invest it, and now let's do this, like if you're committed.
Yeah.
The type of woman, if you are like me, you come from corporate, you're really successful, you're a performance person, you're like, oh yeah, but you're lacking this side of like, hey, what does it actually mean to lean back?
Mhm.
I'm leading 10 people or 50 or 100.
Mhm.
I'm managing all this. Maybe you have kids. I don't have kids, so I can't, but it's also managing teams. And if you're
Mhm.
ready to like, you know what, now it's time for myself, that I choose, and the time that I have, I choose deliberately to spend with people, to spend on myself and to spend with people that are worth it, and not useless dates where you listen to monologues. Yeah, that's I
Yeah.
couldn't get it's you know when you know. And when you when you get triggered and you have shit in your pants to sign, that's when you should do it, because then you're like, okay, I'm not going to be the same woman when I'm going to get out of this. And I
Yeah.
can confirm that 100%.
Yeah, there definitely was fear in that investment, even for
Yeah,
you, but that also gave you some skin in the game and raised the stakes and made you come in and make the most of your time. And that's truly what I saw with you. And that's why I wanted to do this today, because calling in more clients like you who dedicate themselves to the work is just, it makes it all worth it for me. And so I absolutely loved working with you, and I loved talking to you today. And I want to thank you so much for doing this, because it's going to hit home for so many women and let them know for sure if this is for them or not. And no matter what, it's a gift.
it is. Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the support you gave me over the last 6 months. Hard work and so worth it.
It was
So
so worth
worth
it. It was so